This video was written by What If Football. A link to his channel will be in the description. You can also find episode 1 and 2 linked below, and there will be 3 more episodes in this series, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when they come out. But before I go any further, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, OneFootball, which has become my favourite football app because it has everything you need to keep up to date with the latest news and transfers, providing you with articles to read as well as videos to watch, whilst also being excellent for keeping up to date with all the matches from across the world that are going on, providing a live ticker as well as match ratings and statistics, whilst also allowing you to check your team stats from across the whole season. If you're sick of having to use Google and Twitter to search for news and stats that you want to see, then the OneFootball app is definitely the app for you, so I'll leave it linked in the description below, and by downloading the app you will be helping to support the channel. So carrying on from the last episode where we discussed Manchester United in Barcelona, things appear to be changing on the pitch at Old Trafford, with more European hurdles navigated, and so too were things changing off the pitch as well. On September the 6th, 1998, after 2 months of talks led by B-Sky B and Martin Edwards, a change in the club's ownership seemed almost inevitable. United's board had haggled upwards and eventually Rupert Murdoch settled at a price of 240p per share, which equated to a club valuation of £623 million. Sky spokesman Martin Booth even led a press conference at Old Trafford, where the only question he couldn't answer was fielded from the Daily Mirror. Who is Manchester United's left back, they asked. The prospective owners couldn't even answer. A fan revolt soon gave way for the announcement from the Monopolies and Mergers Commission that ruled that the prospective takeover was unlawful. The club would remain in the hands of the Edwards family, who were unpopular enough, but at least they weren't the apparent, all-conquering evil media moguls. And it would have been a profitable excursion for Murdoch and co too, seemingly. Deloitte ranked Manchester United as the richest football club in the world in early 1999, with an £88 million turnover that dwarfed even the giants of Real Madrid and Barcelona, as well as a more successful Italian side such as Juventus, AC Milan and Inter Milan. It was a number more than Arsenal and Chelsea combined and made up 20% of the entire Premier League. This was off of the back of United's sheer domination since the inception of the league in 1992. United did make sure of their quarter-final fate in the Champions League, admin confusion after a 1-1 draw against Bayern Munich at home, as one of the best second-place teams. Aside from that, December was a disastrous month for the club. Aston Villa, Tottenham and Chelsea held them to draws in the league. The latter liked it so much they drew with United either side of Christmas. The most damning result though came with a quirk. Sir Alex Ferguson wasn't present. Attending his sister-in-law's funeral, interim assistant manager Jim Ryan took charge of what was another 3 goals conceded at home to Middlesbrough. The blow was by no means cushioned by the late goals from Paul Scholes and Nicky Butt. A loss was a loss, but United couldn't afford any more in the league. What's more, United were eliminated from the League Cup in December. A 3-1 defeat at White Hart Lane after eliminating Bury and Nottingham Forest sent a potential quadruple down the drain, after getting knocked out in the quarter-final. Whilst that wouldn't derail United's season, Brian Kidd's departure for the Blackburn job on December the 4th might have done. His successor wouldn't appear until February, and it maintained an animosity between Ferguson and his assistant for some time to follow. Kidd, who had won the European Cup with United in 1968 as a player, was recruited as a youth coach in the 1980s before his promotion in 1991 to succeed Archie Knox as assistant. In 4th place at the dawn of 1999, United's season was on the ropes, but then the corner was turned both off and on the pitch. 10 goals were put beyond West Ham and Leicester in successive league games, whilst revenge was gained over Middlesbrough in the FA Cup 3rd round. Whether or not a Christmas blowout that saw the club pick up a £35,000 bar tab helped the players' fitness levels, it certainly aided morale. Perhaps a more pertinent reason for United turning their nose up on the season was the intense training camps Ferguson put together throughout January. He desired the players to slug it out throughout the month in order to withstand the Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday schedule. It was a mini pre-season where the players would be put through their paces, tired out in order to be fit for business for the end of the season when the Champions League returned. And Ferguson's plan worked. Gary Neville thought it was a masterstroke. He's a Glaswegian union man dealing with a young bunch of millionaires, and he's managed to ground us in every team talk. There was always a story to reinforce work ethic and principles. Peter Schmeichel was afforded his long overdue rest, jetting off to Barbados whilst the players turned up the heat in freezing conditions at grounds such as Filbert Street and the Valley. And he would miss a 6-2 thrashing that United put together over Leicester City. Paul Scholes noted, "In 1999 we had a bit of everything. Every time we went on the pitch you thought we'd score 3 or 4. In the raw numbers, the more intense training regime appeared to help. United secured 1.72 points per game prior to the Middlesbrough defeat and 2.4 points per game afterwards, and they wouldn't lose a game until October of that year." 4 games into 1999 came perhaps Manchester United's most transformative fixture yet, the 4th round of the FA Cup against Liverpool. United's biggest rivals hadn't beaten them in the FA Cup since 1921, 6 ties between the two in 78 years. They met in 2 finals in 1977 and 1996, 2 semi-finals in 79 and 85, as well as the 4th round victories of 1948 and 1960. However, the tide threatened to be turned as Michael Owen was gifted the freedom of Old Trafford to head in a 2nd-minute opener, and Robbie Fowler really ought to have added a second before half-time, wisping a wicked curling effort wide of the mark. However, United came closest to finding the second goal. Roy Keane headed against the inside of the post, and the ball was only just about retrieved from the line by former United midfielder Paul Ince. Regardless of the close match, Ferguson needed to change things. He told his players to attack more with width. They needed to coax midfielders Jamie Redknapp and Paul Ince out to the flanks before delivering crosses centrally. All the chances went one way, which was to the home side. Roy Keane had a shot that was deflected agonisingly wide, when for all the world it looked to be creeping into the bottom left-hand corner beyond David James. Then he struck the woodwork again. Andy Gray in the Sky Sports gantry chuckled, "This is Liverpool's day," and it seemed hard not to agree with the litany of chances that somehow failed to find a net. On another day, the match would have already been won. With 9 minutes remaining, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was summoned off the bench, and Ferguson switched to a defensive 3, which was a rarity, but desperate times called for desperate measures. In September of that season, United had disposed of Liverpool comfortably. The goal that set them on their way that night was a Dennis Irwin penalty. They found their breakthrough for a set piece again in the cup. Andy Gray on commentary queried whether David Beckham would aim for goal in a seemingly unprofitable area of the pitch. Instead, Golden Balls drifted the ball to the back post for Andy Cole, who expertly cushioned the ball with his head back across a 6-yard box. Of course, Dwight York bore down on goal, only needing to tap the ball into the net to snatch an equaliser, which he did. York would rage down the byline near the tunnel, thrusting his fist towards the crowd, yelping with emotion. The forward claims that he'd never been so emotional after scoring a goal. He went on to say, "That really wasn't my style, but something got to me that day." It was an 88th minute equaliser, but the match wasn't over yet. Liverpool scrambled as Paul Scholes penetrated their penalty area and then slinked to the right hand side to pull the trigger of his right boot. The midfielder labelled this match as the most exciting and ultimately satisfying finish to any game he'd ever played in. Instead of winding up with a vicious finish, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's left boot was in the way. The Norwegian teed himself up with a typically delicate first touch before quickly sending David James the wrong way. Liverpool were out of the cup and the replay was averted, and Manchester United were through to the 5th round. 3 minutes away from being dumped out of the cup, from it being Liverpool's day, to suddenly a momentous United victory. Gary Neville called it the big one, and Solskjaer claimed that he preferred to win this way. Interviewed, he said, "To beat Liverpool in this way is better than beating them 5-0, I think. Is the best way to win a football game, in the last minute." United were handed the only Football League opposition they would face in the FA Cup when an upwardly mobile Fulham side in the 3rd tier would travel to Old Trafford, but it's fair to say that with a 1-0 victory for Andy Cole that the match wasn't nearly as dramatic. Europe was about to rear its head once more. The latter stages of the FA Cup were navigated into, and the title race was coming into focus, with United placed front and centre. If a strict mid-season training regime was a foundation, Liverpool at home in the FA Cup 4th round was a springboard to push off for the remainder of the season. Alex Ferguson, in an interview for the end of season review on VHS, said, "From then on, you just felt that we were never going to be beaten." So that was episode 3 of this series. Episode 1 and 2 will be linked in the description. Episode 4, 5 and 6 should be out soon, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you do get notified when they come out. Put your thoughts in the comment section below. Check out What If Football's channel as well. Give the video a like, and I'll also leave some other videos that I think you may enjoy in the description as well.